I just hung as much art as I could in there that sort of made sense to me. And my husband walked in and went, "Oh my God, this looks like an art gallery." And I'm like, bravo.
Yes.
That's exactly how I want people to feel.
Hi, I'm George, the co-founder of Bluethumb. I'm joined by my colleague Amy. Welcome to the Art in My Home podcast.
We uncover the surprising stories from the art collections of unexpected guests.
Today's guest is interior stylist and decorator extraordinaire Bea Lambos. She's the founder of Bea and Co, and known for her vibrant layering of colour, art and thoughtfully chosen decor. Bea transforms homes into living, breathing works of art. Welcome to the pod, Bea.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We like to jump into the art questions first, Bea. So,
Hard-hitting.
let's go.
So online, your house has this great write-up. It's an amazing looking place and sounds like you did the mid-COVID home change as well, like I did at the start of COVID. And you can see it's a beautiful place, and you could describe it kind of as a kaleidoscope of colour, art and sort of collected objects. So, yeah, can you tell us about that? Tell us about decorating it and also some of the art in there that you love.
Yeah, sure. Yes, so it was definitely a mid-COVID, holy shit. We are getting all too big for this small house.
Yes.
So my husband had never, ever worked from home. He was always travelling. My son just suddenly exploded and came out, 3 feet taller, and we just decided, okay, we really need to seriously look for somewhere else. Our old house had limited storage, limited wall space. So to move into a new house over COVID, when you've got plenty of time to actually play and to really feel spaces, was probably why it looks so lived in. We've only been there for a couple of years, but it really, I just did it all day, all night, just to try and get it feeling great because we're all stuck at home. And we looked at lots of houses, but this house in particular had 3 things. And I remember walking in and they had the ceramic bees already in the hallway.
Oh.
And I said to my husband, as soon as we opened the front door, I was like, well, there's an omen. The second thing was the natural light. The natural light through the house was amazing. And for me, working in interiors, if I walk into a house, it might have everything else, but natural light, it's like, okay, we can definitely do something great with this. So the natural light, actually there's 4 things. The third thing in the walk-in wardrobe it's just a very plain walk-in wardrobe, opened up the doors, hot pink cabinetry only on one side. So my husband's side is grey. So as soon as I opened it, he said, "Oh my God, we're going to have to change that. We can't live with those." And I'm like, no, I think I really want this house. This is definitely speaking to me. And the 4th thing is there is a teeny tiny wall space in between walk-in wardrobe and master bathroom ensuite. And she had this incredible art. It was literally, 20 by 30, tiny little piece, but it was a woman sitting on a toilet with a fag with her undies around her ankles. And I've tried to find it. I wanted to buy it because it was just like, this art is so good. So, 4 things that I just decided, okay, this could be the pad for us. So we bought it with like 120 days, so it was a long wait. But they moved out sort of 3 months before we took over the house. So it was a lot of boiling in my head of, okay, where am I going to put stuff? We ran around the house after we bought it and I just videoed everything, just things that I wanted to remember, wall space. So, it was a really good find and it's been a really good move for all of us just to have our little spots when we're working from home. So I've still got 3 out of 4 working from home. So
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a lot of Zoom calls in one house.
it's a lot. My husband and I actually share a study. So the art hanging there is very weird because it's where I want to look at it. He's looking at a wall, I'm looking at a window. So I sort of feel like I'm a bit lucky I've sort of chosen my spot where we're sort of like back to back. So
Do you and your husband agree on artwork?
Nah.
No.
Never. We don't agree on a lot, actually. And it's probably good. I always say he's my worst client because when I'm come home from somewhere and I'm just feverish with wanting to paint a wall or something, he's that person that goes, "Oh, hang on a minute. Have we got time? Have we got the paint? Have we got the right brushes?" He sort of slows me down a bit because I think I probably would have made pretty crazy decisions in my own house. So that's a good thing. And I've got a list a mile long that I'd love to do, but I've got to be respectful that someone else lives in the house.
Other people.
Unfortunately.
Other people, damn it.
Surely
Damn it.
having like a hot pink half of a walk-in is is a good start. It gives you a fair permission to really.
And do you still have that too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No way am I changing
No.
that. No, it's like Barbie pink.
Yeah.
It was
Oh, that's amazing.
Ace before the new Barbie movie came
Yeah.
out. But no, I gently slide things in. There's a lot of things still in cupboards that gently slide out. I move art around all the time. I just find that I need a different view sometimes if I'm working from home. That's sort of like my 5-minute grab a coffee and just shuffle a couple of things around the house. Just sort of calms the mind a little bit, gives me something to think about if I'm working on trying to source for clients or a shoot or something. So, yeah, it's been a great, great move. We're really happy there now.
I love the move art around. I don't do that enough. We do it here in the gallery,
Yeah, I'm
obviously.
sure you
And we did it
do.
in the office yesterday. It's great.
Yeah,
Suddenly
yeah.
the office feels new.
Yeah.
That's good that you do it at home.
Yeah, because I think, well, when you're choosing something for a client, sometimes they can't figure out where to put something. And I always say to them, there's not one perfect piece for one spot. So be a little bit adventurous because, the light falls on it differently or it just takes on a new life that you may not have realised when it's stuck in something that might be a little bit darker or above a dark piece of furniture compared to being in an all-white space or something else hanging next to it. So, yeah, I try to practice what I preach because it is a way of figuring out what you really like and what you really hate. Yeah, the art shuffle was quite funny because someone will get home and they'll be like, is that new? No, it was just in a cupboard or it was up on another wall.
It's
So
different. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like a haircut for your house.
like a
something's
haircut.
different.
Yeah.
Also kind of like not repurposing, but it is because if you're sick of a space, you don't want to just, sometimes it kind of counteracts you wanting to purchase
Yeah,
something else
yeah.
instead. It's like, no, let me just swap that around.
Yeah, yeah. And that old styling trend where people say just take everything out and just add a new pop of colour, buy new cushions, buy a throw, buy a photo frame. I'm talking like 1990s now.
Yeah.
But I think it sort of stops that as well because it stops you buying. If you suddenly like, geez, I'm bored with it, it's been like this for 12 months. If you're shuffling things around, it feels fresh and new again. So it sort of stops that buying of crap that you're going to throw out in 12 months' time.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Bea, the richest string of bees that were in the house,
Yes.
did they come with the house?
No,
You went and
nothing.
brought them yourself?
I did. I
Yeah.
sourced them from Fletcher Arts.
Yes.
And I don't know whether the person who owned the house had bought them from there. But, yeah, she's become a really great supplier for me
Yeah.
for clients, and I bought a bit for home and I use stuff for shoots, and she's got an amazing eye for different art, and she also does it from her house. Her gallery is her house.
Oh, really?
So it's like going over for a cup of tea,
Yeah.
but also just checking out what's cool. And she's a shuffler as well. So, I bought them from there. And I literally hung them exactly the same way too because I felt that gold bee
Yes.
in the middle was perfectly hung. So I was like, you know what? We're just a caretaker, I suppose,
Yeah.
for the space. They had some amazing art in the house. So it was sort of like a homage to, how great it already was. And,
Yeah, I love them. We were just
Added a
having
few
a
more
look
bits.
online at them. The little ceramics.
Yeah.
They're ceramic.
Yeah, I saw the artist Richard Stringer.
Yeah.
He did like this huge one. I think it's at the Eureka Tower.
Yes,
Is that-
that's right. A
Yes.
gold one?
Yeah,
A
yeah,
gold
massive
one.
gold one. They're the size of
Yeah.
a room.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the one I want.
Insane.
Yeah. Oh, good luck with that.
In my front yard.
No, maybe just start a bit smaller, George.
Yeah, I hadn't
But
seen
I think
this
also
great.
too, when we moved in, she had a lot of art hanging in that hallway. And so when we first moved in, I just hung as much art as I could in there that sort of made sense to me. And my husband walked in and went, oh my God, this looks like an art gallery. And I'm like, bravo.
Yes.
That's exactly how people want people to feel because it's quite a wide space.
Yes.
And it just felt like it needed some personality. So she actually had a lot of art, and some of it, it's not hanging perfectly towards what the rules are, but it feels good. There's even like little ledges as you go downstairs into the new part. So I every now and then I'll just put a piece of art on that little ledge. As you walk down, you actually notice something different. So, yeah, more homage to the old owners, actually.
Love that. Yeah, love it. Love a big kind of gallery wall
Yeah.
in the hallway.
Yeah.
And that original artwork of the woman smoking on the toilet, did you take a picture?
I have.
Okay.
I should actually Google image
Yeah,
it.
Reverse search image it. Yeah.
I've never even thought of doing that.
Yeah.
I've always just wondered where it was from.
Yeah.
Great idea. I'm going to do that when I go home.
Yeah, because you might actually find it.
It actually looks like there's a sitcom, a US sitcom of two women in a cafe, maybe in the 90s or 2000s. I can't remember what it's called. But I think it could be based on that. I don't know. Yeah. Watch this space. I'm going to try and find it now.
We have a great artist called Pete Conroy on us,
Okay.
and he's got this great series of these kind of nuns smoking.
Love it.
Some of them like super hot, like beautiful, and some are just like
Really
worn
haggard
out,
looking.
Like 30 years at the Vatican, and kind of. But it's the best
Look what
series.
God's done to me.
Yeah, pretty
It's
much.
absolutely smoking nun series. Like they go up and they'll sell that day.
I love it.
It's so popular.
Yeah.
So good.
Well, that's the sort of art, I suppose, that people talk about when they're coming to your house. You know, it's not necessarily the tonal pretty thing. It's the, I say to clients, you always need something that's got a bit of, holy shit, what is that on your wall? Because it is a talking piece, especially in a dining room. I mean, who's been to someone's house for dinner and they've got white walls and, you're sort of thinking about what you can talk about if you're with people that you don't necessarily know too well. But stick something amazing on the wall. You're going to have someone who's going to be able to, draw a bit of conversation out of it.
I really like that point, actually.
Yeah.
Put your most challenging artwork in your dining room for those occasions.
Yeah, definitely.
Something to sort of divide people.
It's probably the
talk
spot
about.
other than your living space where you sit for the longest.
True.
So it's sort of nice to have nice things to look at on the wall.
Very true. Very true.
No, I completely agree. I've got a big Kim Lutweiler portrait
amazing.
of two girls in underwear sort of looking back at my dining table.
Yeah.
And I love this piece.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite
Yeah.
artworks. And but it can divide people.
Yeah,
You walk in and
Anyway. Interesting.
Can we please talk about this Martin Teague? Is it Martin?
Yes.
Martin Teague.
I think it's Teague,
After hours artwork from the Omnia Art Show,
Yeah.
St. Kevin's. I have never been to this art
my
show,
God.
and I always hear about it because a lot of our artists enter into it.
Yes, yeah.
The calibre of the artwork is beautiful.
I'm going to be really honest with you. My son was there from prep.
Yeah.
And I didn't go on the committee until 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was in his last year at school. And I probably, until he was in year 8 maybe, I thought it was kids' art. And I had a mate who's got this really amazing art collection. And I'd go to her house and I'd say to her, where the hell did you get that? And she's like, seriously, why aren't you going to the art show? This is where I pick something up every year.
Really?
And yeah, I did the social media for them for the 12 months. There's some really good artists, some very, very good artists. There's people represented by galleries and,
Absolutely,
and then Martin Teague, now he's actually, I hung that in our old house and my neighbour across the road came over and she said, oh, that's my son's art teacher.
Oh, wow.
I recognise his work. So, it was just something that I kept going back to and, there is affordable art there as well as expensive art. And so sometimes people would pick up a ceramic or a print or, it's very, very good. It's definitely, I think it's coming up in May.
How many entries do you get into the art prize, do you know? Or?
Off the top of my head, oh my God, a lot. They do it on Anzac Day and the committee, it's 8 people, go through. They've made a shortlist. The convener makes a shortlist and you're going through hundreds.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. It's really hard because there's so many talented people out there in all different genres. So, yeah.
We've paused it for now, but we were doing our Bluethumb Art Prize.
Yeah.
I was on the selection committee one year and the arguments that we were having. And we'd have like half of our staff are in Adelaide and we're just like, you can't see this in real life. You don't understand that, cut it.
And I think that's definitely it. Seeing it in real life definitely makes a big difference. Because you just, you can see the texture, you can feel it a lot more when it's close to you.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's a great art prize. And I love that piece. When I brought it home, my husband was like, I don't quite get it, but I love just looking through that. You probably can't see the detail, but it's just looking through the Venetians and it's very fine the way he's done that work over the top of the actual painting. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just a nice little moment, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's sort of sitting almost in an indented wall that only I can see it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh,
my
okay.
husband can't see from his desk. That's what he always says. If you like it so much, why can't I see it? And I'm like, no, I quite like that it's just my sort of peek over my shoulder, someone sitting working.
Nice. And you added ceramics to that art prize, and looking at your house, you have lots of like amazing ceramics. Oh, there's my pen. And I don't think you sent any through, but I noticed
I couldn't choose.
Yeah. Well, you have so many that I can see. But there was a really interesting kind of abstract one by an artist called Anya Pesh.
Yeah. I actually borrowed that for a photo shoot, and I had taken it home, and most of the time I've got a room in my house, I just store everything until I have to return them the next day or whenever. And that piece, I hung it on a wall at home. And it's just the way the light falls on it. It's so interesting. That's a big mover around the house. I love it flat on a surface, but as soon as it's like putting a rug on the wall. As soon as you put a rug on the wall, you notice the detail and how the light filters on it, and it just takes on a different life. So that I hung in my hallway, and I said to my husband, I'm not returning this. I think I'm going to ask them if I can buy it. And he was like, seriously, it's a bit of polycarbonate. And I said, no, I really love that whole concept. And I know that has become a really popular thing of late. It's coming up my Insta feed. It's going to come up my Instagram.
I know.
This
I know
afternoon,
what you're talking about. Yeah.
But she was probably one of the original ones to do that. To me, it just doesn't feel like it's a piece that they've just sort of shuffled into a shape. She's almost folded it, and I love it.
Yeah, it
I think it's beautiful. Fabric.
Yeah, it does look like fabric, but it's quite shiny and glossy. And sometimes on a wall things are quite matte. So I just love that shininess of it. Yeah, just sort of pops without it being a colour. You know?
No, it stood out so much.
Yeah.
It also is so much more movable than the ones that are the very trendy ones at the moment that are just like
awkward.
Because
I have used some in shoots over the years. Yeah, it is quite heavy actually.
Is it really?
It's very heavy. Yeah. So I've got to be really careful where I hang it. I couldn't do it on a 3M hook.
Yeah.
Do you do the hanging yourself? It sounds like you.
No, a little bit. Hopefully my art hang guy isn't listening. But
like
he'll know when he goes.
Sorry, David. But it depends. For really special things like the other piece, that piece in Perspex, I got him to hang that because I knew that I never wanted that to move. It was the perfect spot, and it's bloody heavy and very awkward, and there's no way that it had to sit flat. So he did do my hall as well, because I've had a lot of white walls in the house, just sort of living with it for a bit, but I really had collected a lot of smalls. That's my way of just buying something without spending too much money and no one knowing. So I wanted to put that collection together, so I asked him to do that. So he did do that for me, and he epoxied. I had a crazy tray. It was a glass tray, so he epoxied hooks on it. He was fantastic at, sort of fixing the problems that I thought I might be able to do myself, but I knew I couldn't. So he does all my clients as well, so he's great.
Oh, nice.
And speaking of smalls, because I do notice you don't have anything too overly massive in your house. Is that because you do like to move stuff around and you find that having a big artwork it's stuck in one spot? Or?
I think so. And also we came from a small house. So we had small walls, and funnily enough, in this house we've got a lot of glass. So we're actually limited with where we put big stuff. So I think in the old house I bought bits, like that piece on the green wall, and dare I say where I bought it from? I didn't put it on there. It's an IKEA piece.
Yes.
But I loved the silver anodised frame on it. And we were always talking about one day we're going to go to New York, and we did do it eventually. And it was before, that photo was taken before the 9/11. So, but it's quite beautiful. It actually looks like it's a photo that's been hand watercoloured. Oh. It's quite beautiful in the space, and we always loved it in our old house. It was above our piano. We sit around the piano and go, one day we're going to stand there and we're going to look at that skyline. So it was sort of something we'd ticked off. But that's why I haven't got a lot of big. That piece in the hallway of the swimming pool of Dave Kalisa's piece, that was actually, when I bought that, I wanted to put that in my kids' bathroom. They've got this white bathroom upstairs over the bath, and I'm the only one who uses the bath in the house, so I thought it was one way that I could appreciate it. And my husband was like, the kids are just going to never turn the fan on. It's going to be full of mould. Dave's going to kill you because I work with him a bit. So I'm like, all right, we need to find a spot. So that's probably the biggest actually in the house for now. Never say never.
Yeah, the photo of the kind of 70s looking pool.
Yeah.
I didn't know Dave Kaluza, but his work's super familiar, especially, have you seen his latest kind of pink?
Utopia?
Yes, that series. And it's sort of like pink architectural photos and a pink pool, and there's like one woman in a pink.
Yes.
I don't know why it's so familiar. I thought
that's good.
maybe because it looks exactly like the Squid Game set.
Yes.
Or maybe
and
I've seen
she's got
it before.
binoculars too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Squid Games.
Like,
yeah.
Have you seen that?
No, I hadn't heard of it.
It's
It's
really
just
cool.
closed,
I want
actually.
one.
It's
Okay.
just, it's been in a gallery. So that's just closed. So it's called Utopia.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So that first one that I've got is from his first series that he did in North Korea. And North Korea, that has been a great series for him. And that was also a COVID project for him.
Really?
So I think he did it, don't quote me, maybe just before COVID, or maybe it was
2019, it said.
yes.
During a 3-day visit to Pyongyang in 2019. There you go.
There you go.
Wow.
Even I didn't know that.
No, that's all right. That was Googling.
I had a coffee with him the day before, and I'm like, well, I may never see you again.
Yeah, well, it's true.
So
nice
it's
to
to
know
work
you.
with you. So it is. It's one of those things. I think it's been so popular because people are like far out. They let people in.
Well,
Especially photographer.
Yes.
For 3 days.
Yeah.
Like,
His cousin was a tour guide there. So he just said to me, I've just got this opportunity. I've got 3 days. He had to actually give them a full list where he was going. You were not allowed to divert from the list. And anywhere you went, like that swimming pool, when he arrived there, all the people were on the street. And he was like, wow, it's a busy day at the pool, but they had pulled everyone out. So for anyone, they don't like being photographed.
yeah.
So it's very rare to have people in the shots, but I just love that whole composition. And I love the fact that it's somewhere where we would probably never be able to go and look at it.
Yeah.
True.
Here I was thinking is the 1970s swimming pool,
Yeah.
and it's actually a modern
Yeah.
North Korean
Yeah.
swimming
a lot
pool.
of also
Yeah.
like never thinking, I would never associate a swimming pool with North Korea.
No.
Like I just didn't think they had that.
pools.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like,
Yeah. It was very interesting. They had like, the landline in the hotel, and you had to, I think his little girl was brand new. So, I'd have to try and ring his wife just to let her know everything's okay. I remember him telling me they had an app store, literally a store, where they would take their phone to get an app put on. It was only the approved apps that you could have put on your phone. And the women that he saw on the street were all dressed in like 1960s. It was just like being in another era. It was just
insane.
such a crazy 3 days.
that's insane.
Yeah.
Physical app store.
Yes,
Incredible.
literally an app. An
Pre-approved
store.
app.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I got to look up the whole series. Yeah. Yeah. So
He had a good time there for 3 days.
Dave's Melbourne, is he?
Yes, yeah.
Fantastic.
Bea, the shelving in your house, did it come with it or did you put that in?
No, so
Oh, okay.
bloody lucky.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
I was going to say
That
it's
might have been
perfect
number
for you.
5 on the list of why we bought it. No, and it was great because it sort of just gives me a chance, like on a Sunday, even in the old house, my kids would be like, oh my God, I can see it. They'd say to my husband, we've got to get Mum out of the house because I feel like she's going to do some furniture moving. And I quite often, I'm not really much of a TV watcher. So everyone will be watching TV and I'll be sitting pretending I'm watching going, that vase needs to go across 5 centimetres. I might mix that back down there. I'm going to pull that out tomorrow. Going to, take out that dying plant, all of that. So it's just sort of, my brain doesn't turn off very well. So the shelves are being ace. I've got that in my study as well.
Yeah, is this room here? I've got,
Yeah,
that's your
the
study. There you go.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and I know colour-coordinated books is definitely not trendy. But I sort of confine things because when I first started with a bookkeeper, when I started my business, we had a meeting about Xero and we sat down and we were sitting half an hour and I said to her, I've just had this moment in my head, and she was like, what's wrong? And I said, I realised I think in colour. I don't think in numbers. So I said to her, I need you to send me stuff and just go, this is red, right? You need to do it straight away. This is green, everything's good. I said to her, I never really thought about it until someone was actually really going into the heaviness of spreadsheets and stuff. I went, okay, I think in colour. So I can find a book just by the spine.
I love that you can know that about yourself enough to get your accountant to colour code
Yeah,
the P&L?
My husband, he did econometrics, like he's very much a numbers man. So, when I say to him, I want to paint our bedroom ceiling gold, he's like, okay, I'm not sure about that. Whereas I can sort of see it.
Yeah.
Or I might have seen it online, or I might have seen a version of it somewhere, or going to, like, I don't know, a church or art gallery or something, seen it on a ceiling and gone, yeah, this is pretty cool. So, yeah, it's just that sort of way your brain's calibrated, I suppose.
Your husband, is he photographic? Like this Ritz picture? Like, is that his creative talent, his outlet?
I reckon he's getting more creative as he gets older. Yeah, so that photo we took, like, in the 90s, out the back, on the tourist buses.
Yes.
And they've got that, the buses have got that round, funny mirror for the bus driver.
Yep.
And he took it through that, and it was a shitty day in London. We couldn't sit up top because it was just so wet and freezing. And it's funny, that was always our most favourite photo. So I think I had that blown up for Father's Day or maybe his birthday or something once. But, yeah, we love that photo. And that actually sits in a very weird spot in our bedroom behind the door, because I sort of like it lying in bed looking at it, and, so, door closed, and it's just sort of nice just getting it on the white wall again, but just sort of really remembering all those beautiful memories of him actually being so happy about taking that photo. And it's a cool shot.
It is. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And, it's sort of a different way of looking at the Ritz.
It also sums up London, like...
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, it's like, well, for people listening, it's a photo of the Ritz, like, illuminated sign, and it's, like, blurry, rainy cars and...
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I can see now when you describe it's like...
Yeah, it's all sort of distorted.
Look.
Yeah.
Do you guys live there, or just holiday? Yeah.
Holiday. Yeah, no, one day. Never say never.
Do you have any artists on your radar to collect at the moment, Bea? Any works that you're like, ooh,
do you know, it's funny, I really thought about this question. Because I buy it for clients, it satisfies that need to buy something.
Alyssa Owen said the same thing last week.
Yeah, and if my husband's listening, he's bloody lucky about that. But I think it really does, and I think the work of working in someone's house, you can experiment, that you don't necessarily have to do it in your own house. And I think that's why I've got more white walls than I let on, because in other clients' house, I'm like, yeah, you need to paint. So you're getting that chance to experiment. You're getting that chance to maybe have a bit of a fuck up if it doesn't quite work. And paint's great because you can change it. It's the cheapest way to change something. So I think, you get that chance to experiment, and you get that chance to, when someone wants you to come and do their art. I've just done an install in a house in Lawn, and they had inherited art and furniture, which they hated.
Really?
And so I've sort of come in, it's been a great way to do a project, because you come in and anything different that you bring in that they're going to love, it's this win all the time. And the art was one thing. They had just quite cheap prints, which are fine, but they just didn't, there's no attachment to them for the clients. So, I bought these ceramic, and I'm still going to buy some for myself. I've just got to find where to hang them at home. These tiny little, 10 centimetre sardines made out of ceramic off Etsy, the late night scrolling. And we've put them in her white bathroom, sort of almost hanging like a school of fish. And I know it's a bit cliche, it's a beach house, blah, blah, blah. But it was something when I showed her, she went, oh my God, that is so interesting. It's a powder room, right? She's got boys. The door inevitably is always left open. It's off the kitchen. And she said, I want someone to look at something nice instead of the empty toilet roll or, no towel or whatever. And so they sort of play on this across the mirror and then towards the toilet. And they've just catch the light. They're really interesting. So it's sort of experimenting all the time. So, yeah, that's how I think we satisfy not buying a lot for myself. If you told me I had $1 million to spend today, I probably would buy some sort of sculpture.
Sure.
Because I think sculpture is harder to get over the line for clients.
Yes.
Art, everyone can sort of appreciate it, but a sculpture, I think people sometimes don't quite get and don't quite, if you haven't met someone who actually uses their hands to make something out of clay, you know, even a ceramic piece, a handmade ceramic piece, it's amazing watching people's process. There's so many clever people, even in Victoria, you know, so many clever makers. So that probably satisfies, going to a gallery, touching, feeling, even meeting the makers, it makes you feel like you've got that link without necessarily having to have a piece in your house. I buy plinths so that sometimes if I buy something, I can put it on there, a vase of flowers or something, create a different height in the house or whatever. Sometimes it ends up being lamps. I don't know. I'm also a serial lamp buyer.
I like the plinth idea though.
Yeah,
like,
big fan.
I need plinths in my house actually. Yeah.
I do love how much display space I can see in your house. Like, I guess, you know, that cabinetry.
True.
And then you're adding in your plinths and
Sometimes in the hallway, someone will come in and they're like, this just does not make sense. And I'm like, go around it. Just go around it. We haven't got little kids in our house, obviously. So it's just like, well, go around it. But once you go around it, you actually look at it. So you're actually really noticing something. It could be just a vintage vase I've found for $5 or I don't know. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything that's way expensive or whatever.
Yeah.
I do try and blue tack it down so that it doesn't get knocked.
Yeah. And, you know, you mentioned, things don't have to be expensive and, you know, buying stuff on Etsy. At Bluethumb, we have a lot of, I guess, first-time kind of original art buyers. Will start with their first piece on us. So do you have any tips for those people getting started? Yeah, absolutely. When I start with a client, like with this client in Lawn, I have this sort of funny little document. It just sort of breaks down art into genres. And so it's sort of like, do you like this or do you like this? So we sort of go through the document. I send it to them and then I go through the doc with them. And it's sort of figuring out what they hate first. So I think that's a really good way because it narrows down, like, how much art do you have on Bluethumb? How many pieces would you have at any one time? Thousands.
So many.
So sometimes I think it's like kids, they just need 3 choices sometimes.
Yes.
You know, because they haven't got any understanding or they haven't quite picked what their style is or what their genre is, then, you know, you just give them limits. So I always say, if you can tell me, do you hate that? And I just put a red line through it. So I know that also narrows down my work as far as how many hours it's going to take me to try and find one piece for a wall. So that's one good tip. Find what you hate because then you can narrow down what you love. Go to galleries, really touch, feel, look. When you go into someone's house, if you like something, take a photo, ask who it's by. You know, prints are a great way to start. And I still will buy a print. And really, that holy shit thing, that something that you go back to more than once, like a pair of shoes, you know, a handbag, anything. As soon as you go back to it more than once, it's like,
you can get it.
I think we're talking to each other. You know, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something that everyone in the bloody house likes because if you're waiting for that, you're never going to make everyone happy. So as long as it's not offensive to anyone, I think you can have things that just one person loves. And you sort of appreciate something different about other people in the house, I think. But, definitely just have that emotional pull. And sometimes even online you can get that as soon as you stop. As soon as you take a screenshot, as soon as you put it in your tabs for later, you know that there's something that's really, whether it's a memory, a colour, a technique, I don't know. So just find that emotion in it. You know, sometimes art I first see and I dislike it. It's almost like I've got a splinter. I'm like, you stop, you look at it like, that's shit. You're like, it's interesting, but you dislike it, or it's just something. It's like a splinter, and then you come back, you see it again, and then they're the pieces I actually end up adoring. Sometimes. Almost like that. It's like the ugly thing in the room. And art's like that. You know, it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be trendy. It doesn't have to be, the flavour of the month. But sometimes it's that little ugly. It's just that, that tends to work. Absolutely. Yeah.
I like to get in art that challenges George frequently into the gallery.
I think that's good because otherwise you would just walk in and be like, oh, yeah.
No.
There's a couple on that wall there.
I got
I
in the
literally
other
walked in
day.
and stopped. I'm like,
These
what
two behind
is
you?
that?
No. There's one
okay.
in the gallery. I'll
Okay,
point
I'm
it
gonna
out
have a look
later.
on the way out.
But I think
Can I
messaged.
figure it out first?
Yes,
before
you
show
can,
me?
because
Go and have a look. Yeah,
I
was
messaged
like,
George and
what
I
is
said,
that?
Yeah.
I think I messaged George and I was like,
Yeah.
I've got some new challenging art for you this year, George. I reckon you'll love it by the end of March.
Yeah. When you guys have got such an enormous amount of art on offer, you need a genre for everyone, don't you?
Absolutely. You can't just have the same.
Yeah.
Because, and in particular, Richmond, we're in Richmond.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting demographic. People like a lot of different stuff. So I think if it challenges us, someone else might love it. And so.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And also it's, I don't know, sometimes you need, I always say after a photo shoot, a day on set, I like white walls to stare at home, if I'm at home, because you need to sort of just tune out.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes it's also nice to have that one piece where you just sort of go, I just can't figure that out. Just makes you, I don't know, gives you 5 minutes away from your email.
Totally. There you go, George. That's a good one.
Yeah,
There you go, George.
we did a rehang in the office upstairs.
Okay.
And a piece I really disliked when it first came into the gallery is now behind my monitor.
Yeah.
Because I adore it. I'm like, I want this.
There
It's
you
kind of
go.
expensive. I've come full 180. I want to look at it all day.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of like when people buy a house, and when I work with clients, I'm like, I'm really slow. I'm just gonna break it to you from the start. But I feel like I maybe only be in their house for 2 hours, and they want every room filled with stuff, right?
Sure.
So sometimes I say to them, it needs to ferment. I just need to sit on it for a bit. I need to go away. I need to not think about it for a little bit. And then usually when you don't think about it, things will pop into your head. So that's why I always say to clients, please don't buy on a whim. Like if there's something that's really, you're digging it really, really hard, buy it. But if you sort of look at it and go, leave it. You might come back to it, and it might be just that one thing that you need. Because sometimes I'm trying to make it feel cohesive, but I don't want it to all match.
Yes.
Because otherwise you don't notice it.
Yes,
you know?
true.
So you want it to be a little bit weird to make it sort of stand out and make it worth whatever money you spend on it, you know, all the time that's taken you to find it.
Yeah.
That's why I like your styling. Like we've had, you know, the interior designers who like the, you know, the neutrals and things like that, and that's fine. But I really like that you choose colour and personality over making something fit on a wall because it's an empty space.
Yeah.
Like that's, I think, one of the most important parts of purchasing art is that it might not like sit on it longer because you'll find something eventually, but don't just force a square into a round hole kind of thing. Yeah.
And sometimes it's the weird hangs
Yes.
that definitely the winning either an image or the space, because if you have everything hung to the rule, it just
Looks like every other house, doesn't it?
it's very mainstream. I did a shoot last week with an architect who loves colour. It was just aces shoot. I've never worked with her before. And in the client's kitchen, they had hung, you know, what's the rule? 150 from where you're standing, the centre of the painting. But they had hung all their art quite high, and it was almost three rows, sorry. And she said to me, what do you want to do about that? And I said, no, I love it, because she's an architect, right? And I said to her, my eye goes completely up because I want to look up at the art. But then I go up and I see all this crazy detailing in the ceiling and your skylights and all that. So I said to her, no, I don't want to bring anything down. I just love the fact that it's sort of wrong.
Yeah.
And she said, the client sort of did it. We sort of went, maybe we could add some more. And I said, no, it felt really good because it was interesting.
Yeah.
So, sometimes things at home I've hung are not the right height, or, you know, like the little low piece on our our stairs. It's so ace. I've got a piece by a photographer, Cricket Salo, and I work with her, and she did this series with shadows on a wall, and it's a wolf. And sorry, Crick, I can't remember what the name of the series was, but I bought this piece, brought it home, and my husband's like, don't quite get it, but anyway. And that has this shadow of a wolf, which you don't really see in certain spots. But when it's low, you sort of see the darkness and you see the actual shape of the woof. And so it's sort of things being hung in different spots, you know, sort of makes sense because then you sort of see a different detail. Or, you know, on a different colour wall, you know, you put that painting on a coral wall, the coral's going to pop out. It's probably going to look really different on a white wall.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, no one can see that, but anyway.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's sort of hanging it weirdly.
I like going, you know, if you go to Europe and you do the sort of tours of the old, I don't know, castles of Versailles.
Oh
these
my
things,
God, yeah.
And you see how they would hang art like
Yeah.
300 years ago,
Yeah.
and it would just be art to the ceiling.
Yeah.
And sometimes on the ceiling, they're just like,
Yeah.
they go as high as they bloody want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you sort of go, especially in a bedroom. I mean, how amazing to lie in a bedroom and look at detail like that. Why are we looking at ugliest downlights? You know, like
Why are we limited?
Yeah.
I think it's
so-
just like, it's hard to hang. It's probably
True.
Yeah,
True.
that's the only limit is my
True.
height.
True.
Bea, you started your studio in 2016. What made you want to start?
I used to do small little vignettes at home for years and years and years and years, and I never worked in the industry. And then I had a period at home where I was unwell and I was bedridden a lot, and I had the fuggliest pendant hanging above our bed in our old house. And, you know, and my husband would come home and he'd say, "How you feeling?" I'm like, "Gotta get rid of that.
Yeah.
Gotta get rid of that." We had beautiful ornate ceilings, so that kept me sane, but the pendant really annoyed me. So I think once I was well enough, I sort of said to him, "You know what, I've spent so much time thinking about this, I'm just going to do something. I'm just going to change it up." My kids were starting to get a little bit older and just went, "You know what, they don't need me as much. I'm just going to try and do it." So I had a mate who was building a house, and it was architecturally designed, beautiful house. And he said to me, "Do you want to help me do the furniture? You've got good taste. Do you want to do it together?" So I printed off a business card, did a really quick logo, and went from there. I used to go to all his meetings with him. I used to go to showrooms. I used to feel like such an imposter, but sort of understood that I sort of knew how to put things together, but just couldn't quite describe why. So I did a year course with design school because I always sort of loved that whole stuff, you know, mixing things up. I loved the whole photo shoot aspect. I loved finding in magazines, you know, what did they bring in? What really would the client have? Blah, blah, blah. And I was probably the worst student because I never did any work in class. I was the one who was in the storeroom playing with the light on the floor, doing flat lays and vignettes and playing with stuff. And so I think once I started doing that course, it started to all, you know, you just work out why you like things in certain spots, why things work, why things don't work. And we did a photo shoot one day at a studio in Paran, and we just sort of broke up into teams, and I think there was a team of 4. And after that, I got home and I said to my husband, "I feel like I've been on drugs all day." Like, that was fantastic. I loved it. I just so loved that whole adrenaline. We just used stuff that was in the studio, you know, walls, and we made, you know, different spaces and stuff. And so I just said to him, I think that's the route that I want to go. And most people that were doing that course with me at that point, they either wanted to go on the block because it was Jenna from,
of course.
So there were people who were just so obsessed with the block. And then there were other people who wanted to do interior design, and I wasn't quite sure whether I wanted to do it. Well, I wanted to do it, but I didn't know what. I just knew it was too big for me. And I wanted to just be a solo. I just wanted to do it when I could do it around my kids, and my husband used to travel. So, so I just did that, and then I just sent emails and just went, "Hi, I'd love to shadow you." And I did that for a few people who are still in the industry, who are ace. And so I went on photo shoots. And as soon as I went on a photo shoot, it was like, yeah, this is really good. This is what I want to do. I don't have just one genre. So I think that's how it sort of resulted in being in this small niche where I can work with an architect, an interior designer, a brand, because I can mix it up. I can go vintage one day, I'm going fully neutrals the next, I'm going crazy overhang, weird stuff in a house. Yeah, so I think that's how it's sort of resulted, but it's sort of been it's been a slow burn. But I think it's just been one of those things that I've gently gone into and gone, well, you know, I'll say yes and see what I can do. But I think once you do things, I don't know, once you sort of do things for one person, it's successful. You sort of go, oh, I can tick that off. I can actually work with that genre or work with that person or... Yeah, it's just been a very slow burn, but it's the connections. It's really about connections.
For sure.
Just love that it started with an ugly light.
The ugly light, which I know has gone, and I'm so happy it's gone because people who bought our house, they have done a whole lot of work to the house with a friend in the industry, and they've changed up wall colour and lighting and stuff, so I'm very happy.
Oh, that's a relief.
Yeah.
It sounds like you really, really love what you do, which is
I
great
do.
to hear.
Yeah, I do. Every week is different, and that's what I like because I'm easily bored. So it's nice, one day I'm looking at helping someone with a restaurant tomorrow. I'm going to someone's house in the morning, which is very, very minimal and beautiful. And then next week is like a colour explosion for an architect. So there's all those different genres that you're constantly thinking about, constantly adding to the file in your head. So it's good. It suits me very well. And I can sort of say too, I'm having a week off. I can't do anything as well. So the one-man band is hard, but it's good.
Is there anything exciting coming up for you in 2025, Bea?
Don't laugh, but I've been boiling away with my website for like 12 months because it's been me that's been hopeless doing the copy, but that's being populated as we speak. So that's a good thing. I really want to get into my Substack. I love writing copy. And so I've done a little bit of copywriting before, so I really like that, and you can do it anywhere. And I like the variable hours of doing things like that. I love working with brands. I did some work with a brand now that unfortunately they've just got too busy with another part of their business, but it was literally wall-hung consoles. They're called Ensemble. And I loved that. They just said, here's the brief, this is what we want them to look like. And we shot literally in their factory. So it was really interesting trying to bring in that homey feel, even though you knew it wasn't shot in a house. But we did sort of, I think, 3 drops of that, which was really good. So I really enjoyed that. So I'm hoping to do more of that this year. I've got one brand, we're doing a campaign, I think it's going to be over 2 years, in designers' houses.
Oh, cool.
So I'm shooting the first one next week for that. So that's going to be something fun. And I also, when I was doing my website, my web guy said, so what does the co mean? And I'm like, I don't know. Sort of sounded good when I first did mine. Should I change it? And he's like, no, don't change it, but you need to describe it. So I always talked about it as, I work with so many different people, but it's just me working with all these different people, whether it's assistants or, designers. I can't do my work unless I'm working with someone like an architect, interior designer, homeowner. So that for me is my collaborative, and when you're working on set, you've got assistants, you've got photographer, you've got architects, sometimes you've got builders, sometimes you've got landscapers, you've got a lot of people wanting that one image to be beautiful. So that co is also that collaboration. So I'm trying to push that a little bit more this year.
Sure.
Because I can't do my job unless I'm relying on someone else's creative brilliance. So once that website comes out, it'll all make sense.
Yeah.
And over COVID, actually, I always wanted to do a shop, not a physical shop, but I wanted to do an online store. So it's still bubbling away in my head. That's sort of my intent. I've just got to figure out the nuts and bolts of it.
Of like curated pieces that you like?
Yeah, curated pieces, and almost working with one brand for a short period of time. Whether it's someone new, whether it's someone old. I think when you borrowing things from suppliers, but when you borrow things from suppliers, and a lot of artists say, things sit in galleries, you've probably got storage, and for me to be able to take it out and put it in situ somewhere which looks freaking amazing, it's a win for the creative, it's a win for the gallery, it's a win either for the homeowner or for the magazine or whoever's trying to push an image or, someone who's got it for life. So it's just, having that dabble with different showrooms and stuff. And sometimes I forget about stores. I'm sure you do too. You forget about places, or someone will say, have you ever been to that gallery? And you're like, oh my God, I forgot about them. So I'm sort of feeling like it could be something that I could maybe do. I've just got to figure out how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Watch this space.
Yeah, for sure.
Eyes peeled.
Well, sounds like there's a bunch in the works.
Sounds like you're busy, Bea.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Awesome.
Good.
Well, thanks so much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
If If you love art and hearing collectors' stories, please share this episode with a friend. And don't forget to follow the show, rate and review to help make the pod more visible. We acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional owners of the land we're recording on, and we pay respects to elders past, present and emerging.